Hey, my people, the inside bus 49 seats.
You see now, you are the way. I don't know, you see.
Where are we?
I don't know. I wonder where this does lead to.
Look at the keys.
The keys? I wonder which key opens which door.
I guess it's our choice to make.
In November 2006, African Leadership Institute and Leap Africa brought 33 individuals together representing the ethnic, religious, geographic and sectoral diversity of Nigeria. 2 other Africans enriched the group. These individuals, selected through a transparent process and guided by a distinguished advisory board, met in various workshops and subcommittees for 9 months to discuss the future of the largest black nation on earth, imagining the country's future in the year 2025. This movie is aptly named Niger Junction. It situates Nigeria at a crossroad with 4 possible routes to the nation's future in 2025. The routes represent 4 scenarios for Nigeria. They are Parambulator, Shine Your Eye, Jaga Republic, and We Don't Win. We begin with the first scenario. A wise man said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Parambulator begins in 2007 with contentious elections followed by mass complaints and a civil strike. Faced with a crisis of credibility, the government quickly moved to legitimize its tenure by focusing on 3 key priorities: the Niger Delta issue, electoral and judicial reforms, and a social program, HEAPS. The resulting infrastructural upgrades and improvement in government accountability charms Nigerians, and a new song is heard across the land. Nigeria now we all know, we go make 'em better. But on the political front, a dark spectre looms. The age-old insidious force of political godfatherism lurks menacingly. Unhappy with the growing popularity of a president who has tried to shake himself free from their shackles, the godfathers split the ruling party before the 2011 elections. The president and his faction aligned themselves strongly with pro-business interests, and with significant financial support from the private sector, the president wins the 2011 election by a narrow margin. Renewing his efforts, the president implements some infrastructural improvements. Major cities begin to enjoy stable electricity for the first time, but broader institutional, economic and social reforms are deadlocked in the National Assembly. In 2014, Nigerians receive a rude wake-up call. In line with all the liberalization of the economy and private sector's heavy involvement in the polity, subsidies on petroleum products and education are removed. Taxpayers are now closely monitored. Evaders are jailed. As a result, most public utilities function and commodities are readily available, but they are unaffordable. Angry union workers and civil servants who had lost their jobs in the reforms turn against the government. Seizing the opportunity, the opposition fills a flamboyant businessman as a presidential candidate for the 2015 elections, who promises to bring back enjoyment to all Nigerians. He wins and declares a week-long national jamboree to celebrate his inauguration. Millions of bags of rice and cans of cooking oil are immediately distributed in every local government. The new government spends heavily, promising heaven, earth and chicken in every port. Fuel subsidies are restored. The quota system is reinstated, and widespread tax evasion returns unchecked. Asian economic dominance is completely ignored. Cheap goods flood the Nigerian market and local manufacturers die. Heavy spending and corruption empties the treasury. Economic growth slows sharply. Unemployment soars and many skilled workers leave. In 2020, Nigeria is hit by an outbreak of polio and drug-resistant TB. 700,000 children and 400,000 adults die within a year as a heavily indebted and unprepared government looks on. As the 2023 elections approach, government agencies are forced to divert donor funds to finance the elections, but Nigerians see no point in voting. Those who can sell their voters' cards. The ruling party candidates wins. More talk and less action continue. Government borrowing accelerates. Previous reforms and their benefits vanish. Investors' confidence evaporates and inflation soars. Jobs disappear and 60% of Nigerians do not have access to good drinking water. By 2025, Nigeria is the 8th most populous country in the world. 3/4 are poor, living on less than $1 a day, while 90% of the wealth is held by less than 2% of the population. For 18 years, Nigeria has gone round in circles, doing the same things and expecting different results. Nigeria progressed, regressed, reprogressed, and re-regressed. Welcome to Parambulator.
Simplicity. Parambulator. Parambulator. Same place. Oh.
Whoever said salvation was for free may not have visited Nigeria. In 2025, salvation has come to Nigeria, but with a huge price tag: freedom. In 2007, over 70 million Nigerians are living in poverty. Women have a 10% chance of dying during childbirth. Children lucky enough to survive infancy look forward to a life expectancy of just 44 years. Constant power supply is a distant memory, and Nigerians are caught between ignorance and malnutrition on one side, and brutal crime and destruction on the other. For most Nigerians, there is little to show from decades of official schemes, initiatives, and programs. The 2007 elections, which many hoped would bring about change, are marred by poor management and contentious outcome. Exhausted and desperate, Nigerians search for relief from the misery of their daily existence. They are ready for salvation. Salvation was delivered, but at a price. In early 2008, the Niger Delta crisis escalates into an all-out open conflict, and there are signs the insurgency could spread to other regions. A high-level Internal Security Estimates Committee, ISEC, is determined to implement a permanent solution to the crisis and maintain stability. It persuades the president to proclaim a state of emergency across the Federal Republic. Overwhelming force combined with technological support from foreign governments is used to crush the insurgents. Niger Delta governors are requested to move to Abuja for their own protection. Dissidents and activists are detained or simply disappear. The Niger Delta is secured within weeks. A massive military presence remains to maintain stability and secure vital oil installations. ISEC's influence on a grateful administration is now complete. Bold actions quickly follow at the heart of government. The Federal Executive Council is restructured into 4 mega ministries: domestic production, infrastructure development, citizen welfare, and national security. In a first for the African continent, the positions for ministers and directors general are advertised domestically and internationally. The competitive recruitment process produces a competent and energetic cabinet. A core set of strategic reforms is initiated, at the heart of which is the war against ignorance and indiscipline. Why? The arrest of a senior director general for corruption, followed quickly by his trial, conviction, and execution by a wide tribunal, demonstrates the administration's uncompromising attitude towards corruption. The promise to the Nigerian Child Program of 2009 guarantees free health care to nursing mothers and all children under 5. The result is a noticeable reduction in infant and maternal mortality rates by 2011. The Lagos-Benin Expressway is rehabilitated and becomes a model for other road projects. A hugely successful tender for 7 new 2,000 megawatts power plants is also completed. The first 2 plants are operational in 2011. This significantly improves electricity supply and tariffs remain unchanged. However, these gains are mirrored by an erosion of Nigeria's freedoms. A new digital national ID card is compulsory for access to any government service. In time, all financial transactions are monitored via the ID card and personal data is stored in a central database. A citizens reporting system allows Nigerians to report corruption and send videos, photos, and text messages to security forces. On the basis of this evidence, why tribunals dispense swift, harsh justice. Grateful for lower corruption, infrastructure, and better health services, Nigerians returned the incumbent to power in the 2011 election that is carefully managed by ISEC. Government maintains its focus on eradicating corruption, transforming the economy, and improving social services. Nigeria's manufacturing sector receives special attention and financial support in a special program, Manufacturing Rehabilitation, Retooling and Reskilling Program, M3RP. To consolidate and build upon its successes, the administration proceeds to expand its powers. 2 major constitutional amendments are introduced, providing for greater federal control over state and local government finances and removing term limits. The combination of a huge propaganda campaign, high-tech espionage, and political intimidation ensures that the proposed amendments pass. Years of stable oil and gas revenues enhance Nigeria's credit rating. FDI continues to grow and the economy enjoys a consistent 10% annual growth. By 2019, Nigeria's per capita GDP reaches $1,700, tripling the figure in 2005. Over the next decade, Niners graduate a new generation of skilled youth who are employed and entrepreneurial. But by 2020, the combination of the expanding population and the escalating cost of providing quality social services exposed the limits of the government's ability to deliver. A new Family Size Limitation Act is introduced, limiting the number of children per couple to just 2. Government withdraws social support for families who choose to have more than 2 children, and they must bear the cost of raising all children, not just the extra ones. Angered by the state's invasion into their bedrooms, Nigerians oppose the act as ungodly, un-Nigerian and un-African. In defiance, Nigerians rally around a strong faith-based opposition movement called Cross and Crescent Alliance for Real Democracy, CARD. In response, the government decrees that faith is a private matter. It bans all unlicensed public expressions of organized worship. Inspired by CARD and yearnings for true freedom, young hackers launched cyber sabotage attacks against the citizen reporting system, and the surveillance system is crippled. For almost 2 decades, Nigerians had traded their personal freedom for a strong and stable economy, a halving of poverty levels, and greatly improved social services. By 2025, salvation appeared to have come to Nigeria. But was it worth the price?
Nigeria, Jaga, Jaga. Everything scatter. One man they suffer. Bossa, gunshot in the air.
In 2025, Nigeria, the heart of Africa, lies battered, bleeding, and shattered. Vultures feed upon it, and onlookers mock it. Once a thriving and vibrant nation full of promise, Nigeria is now a wasteland of destruction and sorrow. Nigerians are scattered as refugees and strangers in foreign lands, beholden to people they once fed and protected. How did this happen? Following contentious elections in 2007, the administration took a number of steps to shore up its credibility, while Nigerians adopted a sit-down-look attitude. The engagement with the Niger Delta, which had begun with some hope, quickly turned into an unending round of consultations with no concrete resolutions. Promised improvements in utilities were forever in the pipeline, and Nigerians' patience quickly faded. It soon became apparent that there was no clear strategy to deal with fundamental issues. The administration seemed to have been captured by other interests. Yet another litany of broken promises. Mediocrity, apathy, helplessness, and disillusionment thrived. Into the vacuum created by an ineffective government and apathetic Nigerians, the godfathers, financiers, and influence peddlers stepped in to consolidate their stranglehold on the country. Nigeria's riches, forests, solid minerals, energy, and vast tracts of fertile land were up for grabs as the vultures and hyenas jostled for the juiciest portions. Behind closed doors, they were privatized, sold off, and concessions given to a tiny but powerful cabal of Nigerians and their foreign collaborators. Nigeria's economy became firmly confined to pure resource extraction. With high global commodity prices, the elite who monopolize the resources become obscenely rich. They saw no need for local value addition, and the idea of economic diversification died. Captured by the powerful business cartel, the government paid no attention to schools, hospitals, housing, and sanitation. Malaria continued to be Nigeria's deadliest child killer, and HIV proliferated unchecked. Few jobs were created, and unemployment worsened. The gap between the rich and the poor became an unbridgeable chasm. Meanwhile, the low-level conflict in the neglected Niger Delta region escalated as attempts at resolving the crisis were abandoned. Instead, a special privately financed Delta Force was created to protect all installations and rich families. The 2011 elections returned the ruling party to power, but with a much diminished turnout. Voters had lost interest in the process as cross-carpeting decimated the opposition. Cronyism and corruption continued unchecked. As they suffocated under the weight of horrible social conditions, Nigerians turned to their religious and ethnic leaders for guidance. Under the prevailing conditions of impunity, strong sectarian sentiments were inflamed and communities began killing each other in a bitter struggle for land and other sources of livelihood. Children were not spared. The 2015 elections witnessed a heavy military presence to crush any protests. In the atmosphere of violence and intimidation, voter turnout was the lowest ever. The Niger Delta exploded and top politicians in power were targeted by militia. Militants attacked foreign oil installations, kidnapping and killing their workers. Oil companies pulled out of Nigeria. Foreign commandos invaded the Niger Delta to secure the release of the hostages. Resistance was fierce and some casualties were taken. Anarchy spread across the Federation. Some armed militia supported the Federation. Others fought for self-determination. The center was weakened and Nigeria became ungovernable. The bloody military coup of 2019, led by a cadre of opportunistic officers, did little to maintain a unified Nigeria. They only succeeded in controlling a small section called the MGN, Military Government of Nigeria. The Federal Republic collapsed as warlords renamed their settlements Republic of Arewa, Biafra, Oduduwa, Niger Delta. Regional countries shut their borders to stop the millions of fleeing Nigerian refugees. Aid organizations were overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the humanitarian disaster. For those left behind, daily life is a nightmare as warlords, soldiers and bandits kidnap, mutilate, rape and kill at will. By 2025, Nigeria is Jaga, a country only in name, shattered and broken.
Gunshot in the air, what you say? Nigeria, Jaga. Everything scatter. Come on, they suffer. Bossa. Gunshot in the air. Nigeria, Jaga. Everything scatter.
The year is 2025 and the giant of Africa has roused from its slumber. Nigerians are now living the declaration on their coat of arms: unity and faith, peace and progress. By 2025, Nigeria is Africa's largest economy and leader in the G20. It is admired globally for the remarkable progress it has made in just 2 decades, including achieving the MDGs. The road had been rough and strewn with formidable barriers, but Nigerians have learned there is no gain without pain. The journey began during the president's first months in office. His tough stance on corruption and cronyism posed a serious threat to the big men who had expected business as usual. They attempted to remove him. But for the first time in Nigeria's history, men, women, boys and girls came out in droves to demonstrate against an attempt to remove a government that had at last appeared to be working for the people. Shocked by the huge outpouring of popular support for the administration, the big men retreated. Nigerians celebrated the success of their people power. They have seen the potentials for them to shape their future. The possibilities are endless and exciting. It is the dawn of a new era. Emboldened by the massive show of popular support, the government shifts its higher gear with a series of quick strike actions. The first is the swift prosecution of political and financial crimes. By 2008, several former governors, senior officials and collaborators are imprisoned, and a systemic program to eradicate corruption is implemented. The second action is a drive towards strengthening institutions, starting with the corruption-free police force to address security concerns. An overhaul of the benefit package, equipment, training and discipline are agreed and implemented. Community trust in the police begins to grow. The third action is the overhaul of the education system, starting with the Feed and Read program for primary children by 2010. School attendance figures show a dramatic improvement, especially for girls. The government spearheads a national moral and values reorientation process. Spiritual leaders convene a national interfaith convention with drafts of peace compact for a moral Nigeria. Community leaders endorse the compact and join in activities promoting the new code of conduct. The code is reinforced by government through the reintroduction of civic studies in the national curriculum. Encouraged by an aggressive campaign to stamp out the militants and prosecute their sponsors, a broad cross-section of Niger Delta leaders formed a Peace, Security and Prosperity Movement (PSPM). By denouncing kidnapping and bunkering activities, it reclaims the political and social agenda for the region. The PSPM mobilizes local youth and reforms a joint force with government to patrol creeks and villages to fish out criminal gangs. As the rate of kidnapping drops, the Niger Delta becomes safer for the construction and rehabilitation of utilities. The people ensure that funds allocated for the rejuvenation of the region are utilized and investment begins coming back. Taking full advantage of the stability in the oil sector and strong global energy prices, investment in infrastructure is accelerated, expanding the job market. In late 2010, Nigeria celebrates 1 month of uninterrupted power supply. It is the brightest Ramadan and Christmas in decades. In 2010, INEC is reformed. The ruling party adopts a tough code of conduct to improve the candidate selection process. Many aspirants are shut out of the primaries due to past corruption, which cost the party dearly in lost campaign funds. In 2011, the ruling party campaigns on the strength of its track record and quality of its candidates. The election is hotly contested. Millions of Nigerians brave the hot sun and pouring rain to vote. The ruling party candidate is declared the winner on a slim margin, having won over most of the undecided votes in what was judged a free and fair election. INEC's independence is respected. The government places economic diversification at the top of its agenda. Regional growth strategies create an enabling environment for solid minerals and cooperative agriculture in the north, oil and downstream derivatives in the south-south, science, technology and manufacturing in the east, tourism in the south, and the service hub of West Africa in the west. large-scale reform of health and education remains central to government policy and encourage the return of the diaspora and retention of skills. Interconnecting rail and road transport networks are built, linking all major cities and ports. In support of the economic and political reforms, university staff and students take up the baton of public accountability, launching a TV expose titled I Spy, aimed at uncovering corruption at all levels. The knowledge of being caught red-handed creates great fear in the hearts of criminals. The education reforms and moral reorientation yield results as standards improved in the tertiary institutions. Nigerian graduates slowly gain respect again. In health, under 5 mortality declines from 20% to 10% and the HIV prevalence rate drops. By 2015, all social indicators have changed for the better and poverty levels decline. Unemployment has been reduced through job creation, partly through cooperative agricultural initiatives which increase food production. Women empowerment schemes lead to improvement of women's status in society and active participation in politics and the economy. But the country's progress brings challenges. A flood of economic migrants from neighboring countries puts a strain on the nation's social security system. There are cries that foreigners must go, as social issues, migration and regional integration divide the parties in the run-up to the 2015 election. By 2015, the opposition, which presents better approaches to dealing with the issues, wins the presidency in a credible, free and fair election. The world watches in grudging admiration as Nigeria goes through its second successful democratic transition. On the strength of the regional growth strategies, the non-oil sector becomes the greatest contributor to revenue earnings. Nigeria becomes the manufacturing hub for West Africa. With good transport, reliable power, IT infrastructure, security, better trained graduates and a strong financial sector, Nigeria's entrepreneurial energy is unleashed. The eco also becomes the main currency in West Africa, with Nigeria serving as a financial services center for the whole of Africa. In 2018, a dark shadow is cast over the nation as massive flooding in coastal areas leads to diarrhea and cholera outbreaks. 200,000 people die in a matter of months. Without the health reforms, the death toll would have been much larger. Nevertheless, confidence in the government is shaken. As the nation unites in shared sorrow, the government focuses on further institutional reforms to improve disaster response and address inequality. This becomes the main campaign issue for the 2019 election. The incumbent wins a fiercely contested election, securing victory only after the second round of voting. Spurred on by strong leadership and a unified national identity, with great pride, Nigeria wins the World Cup in 2022. The first nation outside Europe and South America to do so. The nation rejoices its emergence as a truly world-class player. In 2023, Nigeria secures a permanent seat in the UN Security Council, serving as a true voice of Africa. By 2025, Nigeria is a model for African democracy, a politically stable middle-income country with a diversified economy and a vibrant, productive population who are proud to be Nigerians. It is leading the process of African integration through the AU as other African countries look up to it to show them the way. A new day has begun in Nigeria. The African giant has arisen. We have glimpsed 4 possible futures facing Nigeria between now and 2025. Looking for easy solutions and instant gratification leads us to the Parambulator. In desperation, we could forego freedom for prosperity in Shine Your Eye. If we succumb to hopelessness and fatalism, Jaga beckons. We don't win is also possible through commitment, daring, and sacrifice. We are all ultimately responsible for our individual and collective futures, but our collective future, Nigeria's destiny, will be shaped by how we choose to address the following critical issues. 1. Adopting and implementing zero tolerance for corruption across all levels of our society with 0 exceptions. 2. Becoming Nigerians first rather than primarily a member of a tribe, religion, or state. 3. Re-entrenching strong positive values in our communities, organizations, and country founded on selflessness, caring, honesty, sacrifice, excellence, and merit. 4. Establishing and defending strong institutions to eliminate the big man mentality, godfatherism, patronage, and cronyism from all our corridors of power. 5. Demanding bold and visionary leadership from whom we require full transparency and accountability. 6. Replacing a debilitating God-day attitude with active and constructive participation in the affairs of our communities and country, with the realization that each and every one of us must lead responsibly from any place we find ourselves. 7. Resolving the Niger Delta crisis quickly, equitably, and permanently. 8. Accelerating the diversification of our economy to take advantage of our riches whilst sharing the fruits of our hard work with fairness. 9. Investing in Nigerians through radical reforms in health, education, and social safety nets so that we can learn, innovate, and compete with the best in the world. 10. Creating a friendly and secure environment for investment whilst always keeping our country's interest in focus. 11. Rebuilding our physical infrastructure, power, roads, rail, water, and communications. There are 4 routes before us. This is Niger Junction. We must decide which route to take.